Northeast Tonight, brought to you by Oil India Limited, conquering newer horizons.
Hello and welcome to Northeast Tonight, the show that decodes the region. In exactly a week from now, the Northeast is set to create history by hosting a head of state for a summit-level meeting with our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. Yes, Guwahati is hosting the 14th India-Japan Annual Summit on December the 15th between Prime Minister Modi and his Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe. The two leaders are to fly into Imphal, Manipur's capital, the next day, as the area located on the Myanmar frontier was the scene of a historic battle during World War II in which some 70,000 Japanese soldiers died alongside troops of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's Indian National Army. Guwahati as the venue of the Modi-Abe summit is significant because Japan plans to invest around rupees 13,000 crore in old and new projects in several states of the region. Remember, in 2017, Mr. Modi and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe established the Act East Forum for what is called economic modernization of the landlocked Northeast India. The same year, the Japan International Cooperation Agency, or JICA, signed an agreement with India to provide $610 million for the first phase of the Northeast Road Network Connectivity Improvement Project, which will focus on the sector in Meghalaya and Mizoram. In Assam, Japan is collaborating on the 1,450 crore Guwahati water supply project and the 1,178 crore sewerage project. In Manipur, the Nippon Foundation had funded the setting up of the Imphal Peace Museum to mark the 75th anniversary of the battles against the British-led Allied forces around Imphal and Kohima in June 1944. Now, is the bolstering of India-Japan ties aimed at giving a further fillip to the Act East Forum between the two nations? Is Japan's Northeast India push a part of New Delhi and Tokyo's Indo-Pacific vision to balance China's Belt and Road Initiative? Can it be seen as a symbol of developing synergies between India's Act East policy and Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific strategy? To discuss these and more, I am joined from New Delhi by Professor Swaran Singh, Chairman, Center for International Politics, Organization and Disarmament at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. Professor Amar Yunam, who heads the Southeast Asian Studies Department in Manipur University, joins me from Imphal. From Shillong, I am joined by Ms. Hasina Karbi, a social activist who works in the Northeast and its neighborhood. From Guwahati, I am joined by Professor Nanigopal Mohanto, Head, Center for Southeast Asian Studies at Guwahati University. And at our studios, I have Professor Gautam Barua, Director of the Indian Institute for Information Technology, Guwahati, Mr. Ishantar Sabapandit, Regional Director of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, a trade and industry body, and Mr. Shyamkanu Mohanto, a leading entrepreneur who has been consistently promoting the Northeast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Northeast Tonight. I'll go straight to you, Professor Swaran Singh in New Delhi. Professor Swaran Singh, India-Japan Annual Summit in Guwahati. Do you attach any importance or any significance to the choice of the venue? Is it likely to bolster India's Act East policy? Professor Swaran Singh.
The very idea of hosting the India-Japan Summit 2019 in Guwahati is to underline the significance of Guwahati and Northeast. And this is what the two leaders had already come to understanding when they met last time in India in 2017, when they had started the Act East Forum, which is chaired by the Foreign Secretary and Japan's ambassador in India. So they have underlined the significance of Northeast for India-Japan relationship for almost a decade now. And it is an outcome of that continuous effort that now the summit itself is happening in Guwahati. Second, this is part of Prime Minister's whole effort to take these important meetings outside New Delhi.
Right.
So you will remember that last time India hosted Shinzo Abe, it was in Gandhinagar, which is where they had signed the Act East Forum, and also you remember Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, had signed a contract of which the first phase itself was about $600 million.
Absolutely,
meant
yes.
again for infrastructure building in Northeast. So Northeast has been a significant focus of India-Japan relations, and it is a consequence of that that the summit meeting is happening in Guwahati.
All right, Professor Suran Singh, I'll come back to you. Professor Amar Yumnam, you are heading a very interesting department in Manipur University, Department of Southeast Asian Studies. My question to you, is it just historical reasons that the Japanese Prime Minister and the Indian Prime Minister is holding the summit in the Northeast, or do you attest real significance? Do you attest, how is the traction going to be? Okay, Professor Amar Yumnam, we'll fix the audio with you. We'll fix the audio with you, Professor Amar Yumnam. Now, Professor Gautam Barua, the same question goes to you. Is it just, one of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's attempt at, introducing different parts of India to world leaders? Or do you really attach significance that this summit level meeting between India and Japan annual summit, this is the 14th India-Japan annual summit, do you think it is being held in the Northeast with a specific purpose?
I think that the importance of it for the Northeast will come about if we are able to project to the Japanese delegation the issues that are important to us. Otherwise, it may just become a tourism visit for the Japanese delegation. Because I think there are lots of issues that where we in the Northeast can benefit from closer cooperation with Japan. As we have already said, a lot of investment has already been promised and are already in the, happening. However, we have to also see the reality. For example, we all know the water pipeline project is not progressing as fast as it should. I do not know about the road project. So obviously we got to pull up our stirrups and do something better. We have to assure the Japanese that we are going to get
that we really mean business, that they are not going to waste their aid and investment in the Northeast. A very critical point made by Professor Gautam Barua there. Professor Amar Yumnam, you are now connected. My question to you, you are heading a very interesting department in Manipur, which is on the border with Myanmar, as we all know, Department of Southeast Asian Studies. My question is do you look at this visit as the result of just historical ties between the two countries? Is it dating back to the Second World War? Or do you see that this is really going to bolster and push our Act East policy? Amar Yumnam. Okay, we have to fix that. This is the hazards of working in the northeastern region. Particularly, there is no guarantee that your telecommunication lines will, give you assistance in the times of need. Professor Nanigopal Mohanta, I'm coming back to my panel in the studio. Professor Nanigopal Mohanta, the same question goes to you. What kind of significance do you give to the Modi-Abe summit, particularly considering that it is being held in the northeast and in Guwahati?
Wasbir, there is a paradigmatic shift in the formulation of India's foreign policy. Gone are those days when foreign policies were formulated only from Delhi. And globally, if you look at, for example, in China's Yunnan plays a very critical role in formulating China's policies toward the greater Mekong region. Likewise, there is a decentralization of foreign policy. With the closing down of those broad options, or with the diminishing role of India with China, Pakistan, or Sri Lanka, there is a kind of eastward movement of India's foreign policy, and that is being the Act East policy.
Right.
So that is a kind of new emphasis being given right from the days of Modi's installation as the Prime Minister, and this is to the credit of Narendra Modi that he has further decentralized, as has been already highlighted. Already we had a major conference in southern India, and so far as to give a boost to the Act East policy, Japan's increasing role in the eastern part of India, I think Guwahati and Manipur would be the best venue to give vent and to implement those ambitious projects that have already been undertaken. And also, Wasbir, we must remember the fact that Northeast India was one of the most globalized zones in the pre-independence period. We had, tea way back in 1835. We had rail with Chittagong 1830.
So, very well said, Dr. Nanigopal Mahanta. Hold your thoughts.
We were one of the most globalized zones.
Absolutely, very well said. I think we are getting our global focus back, and it is going to really boost. Professor Amar Yumnam, you're finally connected. How significant is this visit going to be? The summit being held in Guwahati, and the visit of the Japanese Prime Minister accompanied by, of course, our own Prime Minister to Imphal to visit that very, very significant museum, which, reminds us of that famous battle in 1944 when 70,000 Japanese soldiers lost their lives in your part of the world. Professor Amar Yumnam.
Well, this is where I sit at a 2015 Tokyo Declaration between the two Prime Ministers, putting Northeast India into focus, is being converted into action. And well, for the development of the Northeast, it's a very positive step, but let's not take it too far to the extent that it will give a push to Act East policy. Act East policy has a larger component covering the entire Southeast Asia, but Japan-India collaboration, which is being talked about, is only about a physical aspect of some developments, not other components. So let's not expect too much from. It's a good one for the development of Northeast India, but taking it and as a big implication for taking Act East policy forward, that will be too much.
Absolutely. Word of caution there. Very, very cautious, Amar Yumnam there. Words of caution there. Don't be too euphoric. Yes, it's a good initiative, but don't be too. I'm coming to you, Hasina Karbi. But, Mr. Ishanto Savapandit, apart from the news headlines, do you really think that this summit is going to propel Northeast to global limelight, number one? Number two, how do you think it's going to impact on our very ambitious Act East policy?
Yeah, Mr. Wasbir, it's really a very ambitious step taken by Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi. We just need to understand a few things here, that whatever is the agreement that's been signed between India and Japan, or whatever is coming up in the near future, we got to see there are a few other potentials which are there. Like Japan is full of islands, like it has got around 6,800 islands. We also have got our islands, we have got our waterways, riverways. Can we do certain things with the help of Japanese collaboration, where this particular riverways can be utilized in a better form, in a better way, or we just think of infrastructure in terms of roads connectivities, because
so a lot of options to explore.
Yeah, and
lot of options
and
to
also
explore.
Just to add on, basically we, as Professor Singh has rightly pointed out,
Professor Soren Singh, yes.
Yeah, we cannot really mix both the things. It's a tie between India and Japan, and Act East policy is certainly something which is something beyond and something different, where the issues are different and the collaborative approach should be different.
All right, but no doubt that there are a lot of potential which we can try out with this collaboration with Japan and see if it can be expanded to other areas. Hasina Karbi, are you euphoric, or would you like to go with Professor Amar Yumnam, who has sounded a cautionary note?
For me, I would say that as an organization who received the World Global Prize from the Japanese Most Innovative Development Project in 2012, where the focus was to ensure that migration and human movement from the Northeast or via the Northeast to Myanmar is of high most importance beyond the development. The road connectivity, the entire economic connectivity within Southeast Asia was a focus that we need to look at safety of women and children. So taking that into consideration, we have been supported by JICA for the last 8 years under the Japanese Most Innovative Development Project. Our focus of bringing together the ongoing research, which is already taken by the World Bank, that also looks into connectivity and the economic of people development in the Northeast.
Yeah.
I would say that the summit needs to also look beyond just having a summit or an event, to look at what is available in the data, what is available on the ground.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's also clarified to the fact that it's enormously a good event, but I think there's also human development in the region that needs to be looked into, and the consideration that the summit need to discuss beyond connectivity of road.
Beyond connectivity of road. Absolutely, Hasina, hold your thoughts. But just one short question. You have just returned from Tokyo only yesterday, and today we are discussing Japan. Hasina, do you think the Japanese are even aware that their Prime Minister is visiting Northeast India?
Yes, in fact, I was at the Nippon Foundation myself just day before yesterday to give a talk, at the speaker's talk out there. Yes, there's a lot of interest of people from Japan and business of Japan into the Northeast, as well as the fact that Northeast connects the higher road connectivity to Singapore and its potentiality.
All right.
But there's also the other aspect of the human resource development that has not been discussed that much so far.
We'll wait and we'll have to wait and watch as to how
people from the Northeast to work out there.
Okay, we'll have to wait and watch as to what because these summit meetings are always, the agenda is preset, and we would have to wait and watch if our Prime Minister brings out some of these topics, and whether the Japanese Prime Minister is also going to take up some of these issues. Now, Shyamkanu Mohanto, as someone who is constantly pushing or trying to promote the Northeastern region, how do you see this visit and how do you see this summit?
I see it as a fantastic opportunity. First, I must thank Honorable Prime Minister of India for choosing Guwahati. As Hasina Kharbi, he's been working together, say that people there's a discussion in Japan. There's a place called Northeast India, there's a place called Guwahati. First thing, people will be aware about Northeast India in Japan. That is number one. And Japanese Indian Prime Minister will get attention in US also. US also, and all the allied states. First thing is that perception building, it will help. I'm not expecting big things. First, I'm expecting there's some positivity in terms of perception, and Japanese interest in terms of maybe tourists might come to Northeast. That is one. Number two, what I'm saying is the optics. Positive optics. At a time when Northeast is burning is a very positive optics. For me, Modi's foreign policy has been optics. Gujarat, then Tamil Nadu has brought positive vibes to a particular state. Beyond Delhi, they are looking at, and that will get a very positive optics in terms of perception within a policy. Yeah. Third thing, I see a potential. I see a potential in capacity building. I see a potential in Northeast. Japan has a lot of involvement in Northeast. If you ask me, JICA project has failed in Guwahati. Now, if they first talk about reviving Guwahati water supply, that will have a big impact. And secondly, there are a lot of investment Japanese are committing in Northeast, which are not being absorbed by Northeastern state because lack of capacity. So I see, if some discussion takes place on those issues, the governments of Northeast will benefit, and most importantly,
very important point raised by Shyamkanu Mohanto, Professor Gautam Barua. Accountability is the key, because the work culture that Japan has set for itself, they will attach a lot of importance to accountability. If we are talking about the Northeast has not been able to absorb some of the projects, now do you think in this round, where the Japanese and the Indian government is extremely serious about implementing these projects, 13,000 odd crores of investments, do you think accountability should be the key for any future push in this whole area?
Definitely. As I said in the beginning, accountability is very important. But at the same time, I also want to say that we should push for further investment. Japan is a very rich country. It has got a lot of surplus capital.
Yeah.
It needs to invest everywhere. It has been looking to invest in India. And I think there are lots of potential in the Northeast. For just quickly, I just want to suggest two, three things. That, maybe Japan can be, we're talking about the Act East policy, we're talking about road connectivity. Why not enthuse Japan to invest in the Stillwell Road? Maybe not to go to China, but maybe go to Myanmar, to Mandalay, and onwards to Thailand. Why not enthuse them to maybe invest in the metro project, which we have been talking about in Guwahati? Some big ticket projects like that where they can come in. The coal industry needs funding. How about a research-oriented coal to oil production unit? Because Japan needs oil.
What Professor Gautam Barua is saying, that instead of having such basic projects like a water supply project or for that matter a sewerage project, we should think about high technology driven projects with the Japanese technology, which the Japanese are quite capable of. That's what Professor Gautam Barua is basically saying. Professor Swaran Singh, our Prime Minister Modi has set this example of introducing various parts of India to visiting heads of state. What do you make of this strategy? Because this itself is a very interesting strategy. Otherwise, we would not have been having this summit taking place in Guwahati, perhaps.
This is part of the new genre of diplomacy which is being used by several important leaders around the world. So when last year Indian Prime Minister visited Japan for the similar India-Japan summit, you remember Shinzo Abe hosted a dinner for him at his ancestral town in Yamanashi. And likewise, we have seen India's summit meetings with Chinese president happening again in Gandhinagar and this time in Mamallapuram. So this is part of the new genre of diplomacy where two things happen. One, the hosting leader actually escorts the visiting leader, spends maximum amount of time together, and also showcases the other parts of the country to really underline the fact that A, it's a large country, B, it has a civilizational heritage to showcase, and again from that perspective also the whole history of Japan's relationship with Northeast is significant.
Right.
I understand two leaders are also visiting the new museum and memorial in Kohima, in Fall, and the whole history of Second World War.
Absolutely, absolutely. Professor Amar Yumnam, how do you think we can convert historical ties into, action in today's contemporary situation? How can we convert this into a win-win situation for both India and Japan?
There are quite a few things which we require to be careful in this. Well, these 12,000 crores, we are making it as a very high kind of a thing, which it's not. Let's recall Shukla Commission report. Shukla Commission report identified the infrastructure lag and the investment requirements for more than 20,000 crores, way back more than almost 30 years back. Well, after this, what happens is that we have been talking all along about the quantitative dimensions of development, this infrastructure for roads, connectivity, infrastructure for water. But let's look at the changes happening around the world. Around the world, I don't mean Europe, America, Africa. Around the world in Southeast Asia and East Asia. What is important right now is that it's not just a quantitative thing. We need it to be accompanied by lots of qualitative infrastructure so that we can take
All right, Amar, hold your thoughts. I'm coming back to you. But Dr. Nandagopal Bhanto, is there any reason to be so pessimistic? Professor Amar Yumnam is sounding a little cynical. He is not willing to attach too much of importance to this visit, cautionary note. But do you think at least a good beginning should be made, first of all, before we can consolidate?
Yeah, Wasbir, there is no doubt about the fact that this is an excellent beginning. I must congratulate our policymakers for having chosen this region as the venue for the summit. But at the same time, there are certain areas which also evoke some form of cynicism in the sense that Act's policy is actually not taking off from the region. This policy is still Delhi-centered. If you look at the trade volume that is taking place between India and the neighboring countries, and I had a look at it, and our neighboring trade relations with LMB countries or the neighboring Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Northeast share is less than 1%. That is number one. And again, our trade with Bhutan, it is Joygaon in West Bengal, which is getting the 80% trade. Again, with our trade with Bangladesh, it is Petropol in West Bengal that is getting 70 to 80% total trade. So even after so many years of launching of Act's policy or Lucas policy, whatever conceptual name you give it, it has not really taken off, number one. Number two, the focus should be we say the centrality is Northeast India, but I'm still trying to locate the centrality of Northeast India, because the informal trade, people-to-people contact, the civilizational contact, we must remember more than 270 ethnic groups they have come from Southeast Asia. So still we need to focus on this aspect
these are very significant points, but we'll come back to that. Dr. Nanugopal Mohanto, hold your thoughts.
Taking place to the greatest
hold your thoughts. Very important points. We'll have a detailed discussion on some of these points. Isanta Sava Pandit, do you think a beginning needs to be made? Do you think it is necessary to be? Yes, what Dr. Nanugopal Mohanto and Professor Amar Yumnam, both of them are sounding very, very cautious on this. They're not willing to be extremely euphoric. But what do you think? Is this a good beginning from the trade and commerce point of view?
Yeah, this is absolutely a very welcoming and very good beginning. There is
but what about accountability? What about accountability? As Shyamkanta Mohanto has said, that water supply project has not started.
Yes.
It cannot take so long.
First of all, the selection of the projects, the selection of business that we are planning to do with the countries like Japan need to be of a certain level. It got to be realistic, it got to be practical and implementable. Why I'm saying it's practical and implementable, because just a small example, Japan is very rich in fish. We can do a remarkable job in fishing industry if we really want to develop.
So Shyamkanta Mohanto, do you think we have not really been able to identify the exact projects that the Japanese could have actually helped us? Do you think, because we are talking about the road improvement project, we are talking about the water supply sewerage project, we are talking about the forestry project, but what about technology-driven projects?
There's two parts. One is that this meeting will be mostly discussion on bilateral issues of importance across the country.
Yeah,
not only
this is not just Northeast, not just Northeast.
If I'm Assam government, I will try to push some projects. I want Japanese to invest in golf courses in Northeast, in Assam and Northeast. That is possible. Japanese goes to Thailand for golf courses. Golfing is a big business, and they can invest, they can take over a golf course or develop the golf course, number one. Technology, their strength is not water supply, it is shown. Water supply, their strength is a project. Metro was a strength. Metro is basically, they have technology, they have funded. In water supply, they did not fund. It was done by our team, and we failed it big time. We are, as far as my information, JICA project is 27 or 30% complete. This is a monumental disaster. So I believe that Japanese investment in Northeast, where they can bring value. As I say, golf course, they can bring tourists, they can bring value. Secondly, technology industry, I strongly believe they can work towards our river transport. River transport. Dredging. Dredging, they can bring value. We are talking about dredging river.
So we should look for Japan for some of these.
And where they bring machines, let me explain, Wasbir. They must bring machines, not only money to fund your project. They must implement the machine.
They must bring the hardware.
To implement, we'll fail.
They must bring the hardware, not just give cash. I have to go for a short break, but Hasina Karbi, do you agree with some of what our panelists are talking about? Hasina.
Well, I think, of course, I agree what the panel is saying, but I said we have to be cautious with the fact that what exactly we're expecting in terms of the follow-up after this entire event that is going to take place, the summit, because Japan as a whole is not just investing in India, but is also investing in other neighboring countries. But beyond, like I said, beyond connectivity of people to people, which is of high need that the Northeast would need with Japan, we also need to look at what exactly will Northeast benefit and what is the need on the ground for the Northeast when it comes to Japan coming on board, not just technically, but also in terms of resource.
Absolutely.
It has to be validated with facts and the needs.
All right. On that note, we'll go for a short break. Viewers, don't go away. I'll be right back in this very engaging discussion on Modi's, on Japan's Northeast push. Professor Swaran Singh, we know about the 2017 Actist Forum that was set up, by the two leaders, by the two countries, India and Japan. My question is simple. Why do you think that Japan is interested in investing in the northeast of India? Is it historical reasons, or is it part of its overall India reach out plan?
Let me say two things to begin with. One, that Japan has had a very significant bond with India's northeast, especially with Kohima and Imphal.
Right.
During Second World War, when Japan was really becoming a very important force in Southeast Asia and had taken over Malaya, Singapore, and then Burma, they had pushed allied forces of British armed forces in Japan. Japan had forced them about 900 kilometers out of Burma.
Right.
And this was the largest loss of life for Japan before the carpet bombing and nuclear atomic attack on Japan happened. So in Japan's memory, it's a very significant link that they have with Northeast. In contemporary times, of course, again, this is part of Japan's building of free, open, and prosperous Indo-Pacific, which merges with India's shift from look east to act east. And I think, therefore, Northeast becomes a bridge in connecting Japan's free and open and prosperous Indo-Pacific and India's act east policy.
Now, you are talking about the Indo-Pacific issue, Professor Swaran Singh. Do you think, this could be, Tokyo could be interested in pushing its Indo-Pacific vision as a counter to China's Belt and Road Initiative? Do you think it's an attempt by Tokyo to balance it out, to balance China's Belt and Road Initiative and push its Indo-Pacific vision?
Definitely, both India and Japan are the second and third largest economies in Asia. And if any initiatives have to happen in either infrastructure building in terms of connectivity or helping other nations in development projects, then these countries will have to play an important role. And since China's Belt and Road Initiative is not something that these two economies have really appreciated or partnered with openly, they have tried to work together in ensuring that they also make a great contribution to building of development and connectivity in the entire Asia region. And several initiatives these two states have taken, India, Japan, for example, Asia-Africa Growth Corridor is one. And now the Act East Forum is focusing on building connectivity, water, sewage management, so many other projects on forest management, agricultural products, etc. So this is part of that exercise of building connectivity, which is parallel to China. I'm not sure if it is in competition with China.
Right. Professor Swaran Singh, I'll come back to you. Professor Amar Yumnam, this question will also go to our other panelist. Professor Amar Yumnam, this is a beginning has been made. There could be a lot of other ideas behind this meeting, and India and Japan is developing. The bilaterals are consolidating with every passing day. This is several times that our Prime Minister has met with the Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe, almost on a yearly basis. Now, this is the beginning. Do you think, the world leaders focus on the northeastern region, its possible impact on the Act East policy, a country like Japan investing in remote northeast India? Don't you attach any much of an importance to this? Why are you sounding a little cynical and pessimistic?
No, the point is this. Foreign notice is a good thing. Foreign notice, number one. Number two is good for strengthening the relationship between the two countries. But beyond that, let's be very clear. Japan's economy itself is not a good shape today. With hardly 1% growth, almost 1/3 of the population, already over aged population, and young population up to 14 years, less than 13%. Its own economy, the government debt, the public debt, is almost 224% of GDP. So the point is this, if they really wanted to make a huge impact, a country of the size of the economy is Japan, forget the government debt. If we were not there, 12,000 crore is not something which will make the kind of impact. But for strengthening the relationship between India and Pakistan is a positive sign, and Northeast also, the location-wise, it's a wonderful location they have selected. But beyond that, attaching significance for relationship with Southeast Asia and all that will be too much. Let's
That'll
not
be too much.
go beyond
Okay.
Northeast development.
That will be true. Professor Gautam Barua, I'm coming to you with the same question, Dr. Nanigopal Mohanta. Professor Gautam Barua, since the event is taking place, since the summit is taking place in Guwahati, since the Japanese have already announced that they will be interested in up to 13,000 crore of investment, which Professor Amar Imran doesn't think that it is that great a thing, which is not too much. In the global scale, yes. Definitely, but it's a beginning as far as we are concerned. But who has chosen some of these projects? Do you think they should, when the governments prepare projects and submit projects for an international aid, what should be the priorities? What should be the criteria according to you?
Yeah, so I think we have to.
Who has prioritized the projects that the Japanese are going to fund?
No, we are not. We don't know about that because the ones you talked about are already happening or already decided.
Old and new.
Yeah, but I think we should look at new ones where the strength of both are there. I just want to mention, for example, a small point here that IIT Guwahati has a collaboration with Gifu University in Japan, and they have a joint MTech program in food science and technology, which has started just recently.
Yeah.
So this small thing can give us a clue to where we can go. Food science and technology. So the Japanese, of course, have very good technology that side. We have a lot of food products. We have been talking about food processing all the time. So why not get Japan to invest in a big way, not a small way, into some food processing industry.
All right.
Using the technological collaboration already initiated. In fact, the Japanese Prime Minister wanted to visit IIT. Unfortunately, because of time constraints, that is not going to take place.
All right. Dr. Nanigopal Mohanta, your take on the same question. Who decides on the project or how it should be decided?
Wasbir, I'm not very that. Those aspects will be decided at the diplomatic and the administrative level. But my point is that certainly, Japan, although there's an economic slowdown, but it will be very premature to write off Japan at this moment. And this visit, along with the economic and communication sector, there's a huge, security sector which we perhaps one aspect, which is a very nuanced aspect of Japan's continuous focus on Eastern sector. But having said, what I would like to focus Wasbir is that Japan's ambassador recently visited our center at Guwahati University, and they're emphasizing on Japanese language and particularly also on human resource training. I think this is one aspect. Japan's technology, Japan's training and building of human resources could be a great asset to the Northeast region, because today we are having active policy, whether we like it or dislike it, BIMSTEC, BCIM, BBIN, or even opening up of economic policy would require human resources. So that's why we, from our center at Guwahati University, having collaboration with Japan, particularly in terms of mobilizing and training human resources, utilizing their technology for our benefit, so that this region can have a little bit of benefit in the days to come. That's my focus. Let's not expect something great from this kind of visit.
Okay, Isanto Sabha Pandit, you may not get anything big out of a visit like this, but the visit, even if it is symbolic, but it has got a great significance, as the Shamkano Mohanta has been saying, for the Northeastern region. It's a huge opportunity. No one can deny that particular fact, because it brings focus and attention to this particular region. Now, my question to you, Isanto Sabha Pandit, is this: taking off from the summit, it may not have a direct bearing in the Northeastern region, because remember, this is an India-Japan summit. This is nothing to do with only the Northeastern region. This is an India-Japan summit, only the fact that it is being held in Guwahati. Now, the point is, but for the Northeast, what can we do out of this visit? Can we have a start on our own after the summit is over? Can we take off from here and have a people-to-people contact? Can we have trade and business delegations visiting and trying to explore what can be done? Do you think that is possible? Same question goes to you, Shyamkan, after this.
Yes, sir, that is 100% possible, and that should be the way, actually. That should be the way forward. After the visit, it's very important that the takeaways should be calculated very carefully, and we should take initiatives. This is basically a discussion that will be happening between the prime ministers and to a certain level. The takeaways, the suggestions and the inputs that need to be given from Northeastern side is very important, and the suggestions need to become ideally should come from maybe the intellectual fraternity. Maybe time is very short, but we need to prepare, and we should come up with certain maybe offerings to Japan also.
Shamkanta Mohanty, what is your take?
Let me first answer your question. Who submitted those proposals? Generally, JICA used to fund many projects. I was involved in those kind of projects in infrastructure sector. A lot of water supply projects they have funded across India, and most of them have succeeded. Unfortunately, we failed. So basically, proposals are submitted by the state government for the approval of JICA based in Delhi. They get the approval from Japan. Now, if I get a chance to submit,
what are the things let's talk positive.
I'll talk about road connecting Northeast. Connecting road connectivity project across Northeast is a large project. I will give a proposal which connects the entire Northeast. Like Trans-Arunachal Highway project, I'll talk about one Northeastern grid connectivity.
You're talking about an internal backward
linkage of states. That is where they can fund. Number one. Number two, I'll talk about dredging and connecting the rivers. Rivers means I'm talking about developing water supply, river network system in the entire Northeast. The third thing, I will insist, as I told you in break, Wasbir Dam, in Thailand, small golf courses are making viable because of Japanese tourists. Japan can take over the golf courses.
9-hole golf courses.
Not 18-hole, 9-hole golf course of Assam, entire golf course, let us give it to Japanese. Let them invest, let them run it, and let them bring chartered aircraft. So basically a big picture. I'm talking about big picture. This project can come. Right. These projects are possible.
What you are basically talking about, Shamkanta Mohanty, is this: the Japan can invest in a big way in the tourism sector in the Northeast.
Absolutely. And they can bring tourists. Because Japan and India has a good relationship. Japanese are not going to China. So Chinese and Japanese are the biggest tourists in ASEAN sector. So these two countries, but Chinese are not coming here. Japanese will come.
Absolutely.
And because we have historical connect with Dimapur and Kohima and Imphal, when we have major attraction for the Japanese.
Absolutely. Hasina Karbi, do you agree with what our panelists are saying? Shamkanta Mohanty is talking about the Japanese have a huge actually potential to boost tourism sector in the northeastern region because we have got such a huge emotional and historical connect.
Yes, of course, it has a huge potentiality, and the fact that beyond the potentiality, there has to be a development of the people in the region when it comes to travel agencies, hoteliers, as well as what are we going to focus of the Northeast that actually connects with Japan. Having said that, I would say because we work with many organizations in Japan ourselves and realizing that they need to first have people-to-people connect through tourism, no doubt, is going to boost the understanding of the region. But to have that, there also has to be the government in the region agreeing to come to consensus that is going to be spread across the Northeast when this follow-up action that is going to be proposed. Unless it's going to be centric to just one place, which might not be very feasible as an overall. So I think tourism has to be also focused that takes along a Southeast Asia perspective in terms of connectivity. And then the cultural ties has to be increased through people-to-people connect. And there has to be a kind of, an exchange between Japan and the Northeast in terms of organization entrepreneurs that can have a viable way forward. Unless you will just have one and then there will not be any kind of follow-up.
Okay. And now, but these are all interesting ideas coming in. But Professor Swaran Singh, what about accountability? Now, my question is, okay, the Japanese are showing interest in investing in the Northeastern region. Very good. Any outside investment is welcome. But the point is, do you think accountability should be the key before we can expect other big ticket projects to come in, not just from Japan, but from elsewhere as well? Swaran.
Japanese indeed are already quite well known for their focus on both accountability and transparency. And that has also been part of the focus of Prime Minister Modi's policy for about now 5.5 years. We have seen the whole focus on digital India is meant to increase transparency, focus on smart cities, and Guwahati is obviously becoming one of them now. Is entirely in tandem with both nations focusing on transparency and accountability. Prime Minister's focus on Northeast is well known. He's regularly been traveling that part of India.
Yes.
So I think it is part of his increasing focus and bringing development and connectivity to Northeast region.
All right. Professor Amar Yumnam, I'm running short of time. Your final comments. I want, don't you think that...
Let me talk of accountability.
Sorry?
Let me say a few words on accountability.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, accountability is a two-way thing in this context. Accountability is not accounting for the money which is going to be spent. Accountability is also of the governance to see to it that the other accompanying interventions to see to it that whatever investment is being made yield the fruit which we are anticipating and we are expecting. So accountability is also for the government to evolve policies to accompany the investment of 13,000 crores, well, to see to it that these 13,000 crores yield the results we expect. And that is exactly where, when we talk a lot about investment and tourism, and we talk as if tourism happens in the big Beckham, investment happens in the big Beckham. It's not like that. So let's look at things in a very comprehensive and holistic way. So accountability is not for the money which is going to be spent. Accountability is also for evolving policy to see to it that the other missing policies are put in place.
Absolutely. I think that's a very significant point. Your final comments, Professor Gautam Barua.
Yeah, I'll just like to go back to what I started off with. I think that we should try to get big ticket programs for investment by Japan because they have a lot of capital. And I just want to repeat, the things that I said, maybe the Stillwell Road, maybe coal industry funding, food processing, Guwahati Metro. Also at the same time, some of the other panelists have talked about, we need to have some other collaborations. Tourism, I think, is a big possibility.
Yeah.
And education also, our students going abroad to Japan to study, maybe we should have Japanese language teaching done here more at Guwahati University. They have mentioned about that. And so that our students become familiar with Japanese culture and instead of going just to Europe and USA.
Are already prepared. Those who are serious must be already prepared.
And go to Japan, and that way the people-to-people contact will also increase.
All right.
And maybe things will move forward.
Okay. Dr. Nanugopal Mohanto, your final comments.
Wasbir, the very holding of such a summit, I believe, is a paradigmatic shift. Never ever a summit of this magnitude had ever taken place in this region. So this very summit itself is a big structural change in the days to come, number one. Number two, it would also help in terms of changing the perception about Northeast region, Northeast India. This was hitherto known as a landlocked, as you have yourself said. But now this region from landlocked to land-linked, and with the continuing focus of Modi's government in Northeast India, visit of Japan, I think this will give a big boost to the image of Northeast India as a region which is now connected to the neighboring countries.
Absolutely. Very well said. Isanta Sabapandit, I'm running really short of time. Very briefly, Isanta Sabapandit.
Basically, we need to present things which are doable, not like projects like JICA. We need to present things like, one is infrastructure, where when I talk about infrastructure, I'm talking about practical issues like if you go to any of the hill stations of northeastern states, there is a huge traffic. So we should approach Japanese authorities to have some solutions where this traffic can be addressed.
Okay. Right. So these are very, very specific suggestions coming in there. Shamkana Mohanto.
Tourism projects, road infrastructure, water infrastructure, and most likely capacity building. Then one more point. I'm worried about my present situation. My humble request, my fellow brothers and sisters, we are on fighting because we are opposing CAB and whatever things are going on. But please remember, let's allow this visit to happen peacefully because this is an epoch-making situation actually. If Japanese Prime Minister visit comes up successfully, it will bring a lot of positivity for the entire Northeast. So my humble request that this is for the entire people and the entire country and our generation. So please ensure that this visit passes off very peacefully.
Ms. Hasina Karbi, your final comments.
Yeah, my final comment would say I agree with all the panelists, but I would also like to add there has to be safety issues being incorporated in all the connectivity infrastructure projects that is being seen as a way forward of this visit. Having put that, I would say that yes, we are happy that the cabinet passed the repatriation support of migration between India and Myanmar that we've worked for 5 years, and it got passed last month. But that was also a JICA project that we've been working. We see that along with smart city, women's safety mechanism in terms of technology that Japan has should be thought about in terms of what we're trying to develop, so that there's a holistic way of whatever we take forward for the region.
Absolutely, absolutely. Finally, Dr. Swaran Singh, a slightly different question to you. Do you think our Act East policy has the potential to keep possible or future Chinese adventurism at bay? Final comments. Final question to you.
There is no doubt there is enormous potential, but we have to make sure we are able to harness that potential. China is very assertively expanding its footprint across Asia Pacific into Eurasia and beyond. So I think it's a very appropriate gesture on part of both Japan and India to begin to work together, both in engaging China to ensure that there is a certain amount of knowing of what China is doing and thereby influencing of China's patterns of going out and participating in Asia's development, but also independent of China building their own partnership as an influential partnership in bringing growth and development and connectivity to their own regions and to their neighboring regions.
Absolutely, absolutely, Professor Swaran Singh. Now, one thing that has emerged from this discussion this evening is that it's an epoch-making event that is taking place in the northeastern region, as some of our panelists have said. One cannot deny the fact that this is for the first time that a summit-level meeting is taking place. Therefore, this is a historic occasion that can bring innumerable attention on the northeastern region, which itself is a very good thing. I thank all my panelists for participating in this very, very engaging discussion. I thank all my viewers for watching this show. Good night and goodbye.
Northeast Tonight, brought to you by Oil India Limited, conquering newer horizons.